Good afternoon, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago fugitive wanted for gun trafficking in the U.S. arrested in Jamaica. A Trinidad and Tobago national wanted by U.S. prosecutors for firearms trafficking has been arrested by the local police. Shem Alexander was arrested on November 15 at the Norman Manley International Airport based on an extradition request from the United States government. Mr. Alexander appeared in the St. Andrew Parish Court on November 19 and consented in writing to be extradited to the United States to stand a trial. He is wanted by the United States for leading a transnational criminal organization that acquire firearms, ammunition, and firearms accessories to export from Florida to Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Alexander is the managing director of Gateway International Athletics. He is a former football player in Trinidad and Tobago. NEPA chairman resigns after controversial deal with Trinidad citrus. Amid a growing discontent over a secret deal reached between Natural Resources Conservation Authority and the Trinidad Citrus Limited over the pollution of the Rio Cobre last year, National Environment and Planning Agency Board Chairman Weldon Madon has tendered his resignation. This was revealed by Minister without a portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda. Minister Samuda said Mr. Madon offered his resignation, which was accepted. The resignation comes amid mounting pressure for the National Environment and Planning Agency to provide details on how it entered into a confidential deal with Trinidad Citrus Limited during a criminal prosecution against the company. The deal was struck without the knowledge of the court or the ministry. NEPA had taken the company to court for an oil spill in the Rio Cobre in St. Catherine in December 2023. But it was announced in the St. Catherine Parish Court on Wednesday that NEPA intended to withdraw the charges. An attorney for the agency informed the presiding judge that the regulator, the Natural Resources Conservation Authority, had reached a settlement with the company. In his statement Friday, Minister Samuda said the government is aware of the public concerns regarding NEPA's handling of the pollution event involving Trinidad Citrus Limited. According to Minister Samuda, there have also been valid expressions of concern regarding the inclusion of a non-disclosure agreement clause in the mediated settlement. He said he has instructed NEPA to waive its rights under the NDA and to immediately publish the agreement and the chronology related to the incident.
We have directed NEPA to waive their non-disclosure rights and to publish the agreement and the chronology related to the incident with urgency. That will happen this afternoon. We wish to also advise that after meeting with the chairman of the NRCA, he tendered his resignation, and I wish to thank him for his service. But critically, we think it is absolutely important that the country understands that this government is serious about protecting the NRCA, and we are moving to ensure that all trade effluent discharge into the Rio Cobre ceases. We are working with all stakeholders to achieve this. Beyond that, the Prime Minister has directed that a river control authority be set up to ensure the good management of all of our natural assets, including our rivers.
The National Environment and Planning Agency has released the agreement signed between the Natural Resources Conservation Authority and the Trinidad Citrus Limited. According to the agreement, which has been uploaded to NEPA's website, a mediation session was held with the parties via Zoom on October 2 to discuss an amicable settlement of the court proceedings. Arising from the mediation, Trinidad agreed to take all reasonable steps to expand the use of best environmental practices across its operations. The company also promised to collaborate with the NEPA and the community groups in the environmental monitoring of the areas of the river adjacent to its properties. Consequent to these assurances from Trinidad, the agreement further outlined that the NRCA would immediately withdraw the court proceedings and seek a nolle prosequi in the St. Catherine Parish Court on or before the November 27 court date. The agreement also made it clear that the Trinidad would be absolved of any claims, demands, suits, or actions in relation to the oil spill. The parties also agreed that there would be no future lawsuit in relation to the court proceedings. According to the confidentiality clause in the agreement, any disclosure of the contents would entitle the non-offending party to sue for damages and any other appropriate relief. Meanwhile, CEO of Jamaica Environment Trust, Dr. Teresa Rodriguez Moody, said she is concerned that the agreement is vague in relation to the remedial steps to be taken by trade winds. She added that it did not go far enough to warrant a withdrawal of the court proceedings.
Who defines what is reasonable? How do we know that these steps will be taken? Actively collaborate. There's a lot of generalities. There's a lot of discretion here, and I can't see that that was enough for NRC to immediately withdraw from the prosecution of the court proceedings. And the fact that it turns around and says that they have accepted full and final settlement, so no further action can be taken in relation to this case. So what if they don't follow through with what if trade winds doesn't follow through with what they've said? I mean, how do we know what is reasonable? There are a lot of question marks here.
Curfew imposed in sections of Westmoreland. A 48-hour curfew has been imposed in sections of Westmoreland and will remain in force until 6 p.m. on Saturday. Under curfew are the Maras, Bastard Cedar Walk, Pullet Lane, Bullet Tree Lane, and the Shoeberry Logwood communities in Withorn, Westmoreland. The boundaries of the curfew, which began 6 p.m. on Thursday, are north from the Maras Main Road, running along the imaginary line for about 55.20 kilometers to a dirt road in the Withorn community. East from the dirt road in the Withorn community, running along an imaginary line for about 3.22 kilometers in the junction of Galloway and the Torrington Main Road. South from Junction to Galloway and the Torrington Main Road, running along an imaginary line for about 5.01 kilometers to Hertford intersection. West from Hertford intersection, running along an imaginary line for about 3.61 kilometers to Marassa Main Road. During the hours of the curfew, all individuals within its boundaries are required to remain within their premises unless otherwise authorized by the ground commander. Sections of corporate area under curfew. A 48-hour curfew has been imposed in several corporate area communities. Early Friday, the Jamaica Constabulary Force announced that the communities of 100 Sunrise Crescent, 100 Lane, Park Lane, Red Hills Road Kingston 19, and the section of Whitehall Avenue St. Andrew will be under curfew beginning 6 p.m. on Friday, November 29 until 6 p.m. on Sunday, December 1. The boundaries of the curfew are north from 100 Sunrise Drive along Sunrise Drive to the intersection of Pennant Terrace and Pennant Drive. East from the intersection of Pennant Terrace and Pennant Drive to the intersection of Pennant Drive and Whitehall Avenue. South from the intersection of Pennant Drive and Whitehall Avenue along Whitehall Avenue with an imaginary line to the cul-de-sac of Hillhaven Avenue. West from the cul-de-sac of Hillhaven Avenue along Hillhaven Avenue with an imaginary line to 100 Sunrise Drive. During the hours of the curfew, people within its boundaries are required to remain within their premises unless otherwise authorized by the ground commander. Constable pleads guilty to causing death by dangerous driving in St. Mary. Constable Othroy Stewart pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving in the St. Mary Parish Court on Thursday following a fatal accident in 2022 that killed 66-year-old Linval Williams. Stewart, who was assigned to the police commissioner's office, was the driver of the vehicle involved in a crash on August 13, 2022. On that morning, Williams, a farmer from Windsor Castle, St. Mary, was loading produce into the trunk of his car outside his home. The routine task was abruptly interrupted when Stewart's car, traveling at high speed, crashed head-on into Williams' parked vehicle. The force of the collision sent Williams through the trunk of his car and left him severely injured. His car was also pushed across the road. Williams was left paralyzed from the chest down and spent 7 days in the hospital before succumbing to his injuries. His son, Craig Williams, determinedly fought for justice in the wake of his father's death. Despite facing numerous delays and legal hurdles, Craig persisted in his efforts, refusing to give up on holding Stewart accountable. In December last year, the news brought the case to public attention. After nearly a year of investigation, the Director of Public Prosecutions ruled in January 2024 that Stewart should face charges. Stewart was arrested on January 25 and charged with causing death by dangerous driving. The case, which began in March, drew attention both locally and nationally. Throughout the proceedings, Craig stood firm in his pursuit of justice, often speaking about the emotional toll the case had taken on his family. On Thursday, Stewart entered a guilty plea, marking a significant moment in the legal battle. Sentencing is scheduled for December 19. Guys, thank you for watching. See you this evening at 6 p.m. for another news update.